what really happens after we die. Cathar Love 133. I don't suppose there's a soul in this entire world, in this lifetime or any other lifetime, that hasn't sought an answer or answers as to what happens after one dies. Who am I to talk on that question? Well, I'm certainly not a professor of death or anything like that. But so many of my friends have died. In fact, I was thinking, when we were married, the wife and I, we used to have parties of, we get 30, maybe sometimes 40 people. All different nationalities in Australia. It's very multicultural. And they used to sing songs from in German and Italian and Chinese and Japanese. It's great. But you know, there's only one of all those people, there's only one left. Sorry, two. Three, if I think about people who are now interstate. But that's not many out of about 40 or 50 people. All gone. But out of those people that did die, a number of them did make their presence felt to let us know that things were not me, my ex-wife, because she very good at meditation, and obviously her consciousness, soul, mind, whatever you want to call it, is more open to that. And she got messages, and I got messages through her. So that's one side. Another one is the medium, Susie, that I used to see. I mentioned her before. Spirit medium, the people are in the room, she sees them, she describes them, so you know who they are. She talks the way they talk. And my parents, always there. From day one, they've always been there. From day one, my guide, Brandon de Montsever, was there. And then later, Henri de Nabors, he popped in after a few years, and he's the one who wrote the dialogues, the Cathar dialogues, the book, with Jim Callahan, who was Guliam. And on the last session that I had, before she retired and moved, unfortunately, interstate, I had my mother and my father, Breda de Montsever, Henri de Nabors, Gilbert de Castro, Bertramati, and they were the two Cathar bishops, and of course my mother and father. I have seen another medium since then, and there, my father's been there, he's standing beside me. Henri de Nabors has turned up, and he's given some messages. And the last one I went to, nothing much happened, but one thing was really lovely to me. She said, "Oh, your mother and father, oh, by the way," she said, "they're next to each other and holding hands." Now that was a lovely touch. But the thing about spirit mediums, they're actually seeing the people. So this is why I like them. And unfortunately, they're few and far between, good ones. But I certainly recommend them. And they all have, there's no big deal. There's just a curtain between those on this planet Earth, where we are at the moment, and the world of spirit. So that's another source of information that I've had. Another one was, and this really threw me, my partner, my mother died, and so the family returned to China to fix up various family affairs that needed to be sorted out. And while they were there, each of them saw this, one at a time, saw this very well-known Chinese spirit medium in Tianjin. She's a country girl, but she's got a great reputation. So when Monica's sister Cindy was talking to her, and she said wanted to know how her mother was and what was happening and all the rest of it, and she said, no, your mother is fine. She said, and she gave a few personal details about her mother, and that, which everyone knew about. But she said to her, look, and this is in Chinese, of course, in Mandarin. She said, if you really want to know about death, why don't you talk to Johnny and Cindy? So when they came back from China, Monica said, expect a call from Cindy because she wants to talk to you about death. But that's not a bad recommendation, is it? So I must have picked up a few things, and which I'll try and pass these things on to you today. All good news, by the way. The other thing is that, and I've mentioned this before, that I've purchased the Destiny of Souls and Journey of Souls. I've got one here, the second one, Destiny of Souls. Where are we? And that's by Michael Newton. Now these are brilliant books, and he does past life regressions, but better than that, he started to specialise into people who, it was their, not the previous time, that the last time that they died before they reincarnated. And what he wanted to know was, what actually happens when that person dies? What then happens? What's the process that happens after that, before they're reincarnated again? And no matter whether the person's religious or not religious, or whatever religion it is, always their guide, their spirit guide, their guardian angel, if you like, meets them when they die. If they're a young soul, maybe someone in the family might come along to assist them, but always the guide is there. And when people die, and many people stay around till after the funeral, or not even that. It's not the funeral so much. Probably it's nice to listen to what people say about you. But they stay around because there are loved ones who are really upset and really missing them and grieving desperately because of the loved one that's died, and they are concerned about this, and they hang around, stay around, sometimes for a week or more, depending on the situation, because they want to connect somehow with that person, to have that person feel that they haven't left them. They're dead, but they're still there. Which is not easy, because most of us are so caught up. It's very hard often for spirit energy to contact us. We're the problem, not them. We're not open enough. Another thing that I do as a rule of thumb is, and there are books about the afterlife, YouTube, but the one thing I always check, and if I don't hear it, I just switch off, and that is when the people, and they're in contact with the world of spirit, with people there who've departed or guides, and they talk about God, then my ears prick up. Because over and over and over, not just Michael Newton, they keep saying we don't refer to God as God, the Creator as God, because of this, people having an imagination of this old man with a beard, etc. And refer to it as the source, or the presence, the Creator. And so another person who is world famous, unfortunately she died a few years ago, is Dolores Cannon, and she's got a number of segments on YouTube, and I just switch on to her, and at the moment she says, when she takes these people into very deep regression, so they can contact past lives and their guides and so forth, but she comes up, they always refer to the Creator as the source. So then my ears prick up and but the other thing is that they have in common is that there is no hell. There is no judgment. There's lots of advice and there's karmic debts to pay, or karmic good karma to be rewarded with, and so that happens. But that's not a judgment. That is for your own betterment, for your own advancement. But no one is being sent into eternal flames and consumed for all eternity. This type of stuff. The major religions, this is a major factor. Salvation and heaven and damnation and hell. And it's used as a bit of a controlling factor in many, many cases. But really, for a child who hasn't a care in the world, that child has got the potential to be anything and everything. And suddenly they get this codswallop, this stuff that people call religion. And heaven and hell, I'm not against religion, but they're brainwashing these young kids, and suddenly these kids have got real problems because they're worried about these everlasting fires of hell. And when I was growing up, and I was a young Catholic, I was an older boy, I did the whole bit. But I wasn't so much concerned about God. I was more concerned about not being consumed by the eternal flames of hell. It was hell that gave me hell. It wasn't Jesus or Christ or God and that was such a big deal. It was that I didn't want to go into those flames. So this is really heavy stuff to put on a kid. And there's lots of other civilizations that just don't have this put on them at all. And then, of course, which has been mentioned a few times, that the people who tend, when we are dying, and it's time for death, that the people who have the major problems with it tends to be those who are religious, because I'd like to hang on a few more days, because I just don't want to be judged and go to hell or purgatory or whatever. They're worried. For a person who has a Gnostic, Cathar, and even an atheist, and there's lots of people who are highly spiritual, but hell doesn't come into their thing, and of course they can die peacefully. They don't have this rock hanging over them. But what actually happens? We die. Now, as to how we die, that can be problematic, because we know some cancers are very painful. We know some people die violently. But a lot of people, a majority of people, it's a heart attack. It's over pretty quickly. Heart attacks are still the biggest thing. So probably they're the lucky ones. A lot of people die in their sleep. So the manner in which we die is variable. The pain is variable. But these days in a hospital, they dose you with morphine until the point comes that we die anyway, from probably a gradual overdose of morphine. But they do that so that you don't feel any pain. So-called palliative care. Some countries are lucky enough to have euthanasia, so when you know that you do have some particular, say, nasty form of cancer, or you are in pain for whatever reason, you can then say, no, I feel quality of life is such that I'd rather go before my natural time, and the various countries will accommodate that. The more civilized countries. But over and over, what happens is, when you die, there is no our consciousness doesn't miss a beat. If I died in front of you now, for whatever reason, I'd be looking back and thinking, what happened to this guy here? Because my consciousness does not miss a beat. Suddenly, I'm a piece of dead meat, but my consciousness is there, my soul, looking back at, looks like John down there, Johnny. So we hang around, in most cases, not so much for the funeral, but because we want to somehow contact our loved ones and try and limit the amount of grief that they're bringing into, and to show them that you're dead, but your presence is still there. Love carries on. When it is time to move, and you do move, we move out of the astral plane, away from Earth. For different people, it can be a tunnel, or it really depends on the speed of that journey, whether it's a tunnel or just a wispy thing. But it's usually one or the other. And then there's this beautiful white light that appears, and of course people have near-death experiences. To the Buddhists, it's Buddha. To Christians, it's Christ, and to Islam, it's someone there, Allah or whatever. So, and when you actually go up, it is your guide. This is your personal guide. And then, with your guide, you're taking through, I'll diversify for a second. When my friend Jim Gulliam, who wrote the dialogues, who had the dialogues with Henri de Boers, when he died, I'll recount this because when I went to Susie the spirit medium, I asked him what actually happened when you died, because no one was sure. He was half on the bed and half on the floor, like he was semi-kneeling. A very odd position to be in. But death was obviously very quick, because he was neither on the floor, he hadn't fallen down, neither was he on the bed. And he said he actually had a headache. But he said it wasn't that bad, but it was quite painful. So he had a buzzer which went to his brother's place. And when he ever had a problem, he could buzz it, and his brother would come around and check on him. So he said, I was moving towards the buzzer, and I had this headache. And he said, that's it. He said, the next thing I'm up on the ceiling looking down, and I'm up there, and I'm thinking to myself, he said, what happened? I exited through my head chakra, through the top of his head. But he said it was brilliant. He said it was euphoric. He said I would have loved to have done it again. He said it was a great, it was a great feeling. So that moment of death, it's actually, as he said, it was euphoric. He said it was delightful. And then he's up on the ceiling and he's looking down, and he thought, well, who's this idiot? Half on the floor and half on the bed. And it took him 10 minutes, and he looked at him and he said, that's me. He had not realised he was dead. It was just, he exited it, but his consciousness was there. And so then, I don't know, he didn't say whether he hung around for the funeral or not, but then he said, I was talking to Henri met me, and he said, I'm talking to Occitan, which is the language of the Cathars in Languedoc, in the south of France. And he said, I didn't know I could speak Occitan. Anyway, so that was it, and then he was talking to me then, and he said, they've taken me, well, Susie called it the Hall of Healing, but it's an area that people go when they've arrived in the world of spirit, and because we still carry a lot of human negativity, and sometimes we can be confused what's going on, so we go there, and it can be there's no time in the world of spirit anyway. But we're there depending on our situation. Some people need a lot of help, and other people, they just need to sort themselves out. and then they're taken, before they're taken to their actual family. Now this is your, more or less your eternal family, which can consist of people who are here and people of your family who are here. But not necessarily mother and daughter and father and son may not be in that situation. But there's a homecoming. Now look, it depends what type of person you like. Sometimes there's great homecomings, and they put on like a Roman feast, and there's all these different things, and people are laying around, and they got people bringing all these different things in there, and they put on a real party. It can be, if you're a bookworm, you might end up in a great library. It just depends on you and your personality and your friends and what they want to do for you, but they are there and they welcome you. All by this time, what happened in life and your previous life, it's all already gone, past. This friend of mine, her daughter died. Tumbled out of an 8-story building. She just couldn't operate, couldn't work. This has been like this for something like 18 months. So I mentioned to her about the spirit medium, Susie, that maybe she should go there, and her daughter would be there, and daughter they could talk, communicate. So she did that. And anyway, what happened was her daughter was living with this young guy, and she said, "Mum, I want to come home." She said, "Fine, come home." She said, "No, I want to go back, pick up my gear, pick up my belongings." She said, "There's nothing there that you've got there that we can't buy." She said, "No, I want to go back and get it." So she went back. It was a Saturday. On Sunday morning, they found her body dead on the concrete. So something had happened in that unit. Anyhow, she ended up on the concrete. Anyway, when she saw Susie, and it turned out that she had a big argument with the boyfriend, and one way or another, she tumbled over the balcony and ended up dead. But she said, "Mum, I'm home. I'm happy. That happened 18 months ago. You're the problem. You know, if you don't get your act together, you're going to end up here with me." Because she said, "You know, it'll just make you sick." She said, "I'm fine. Life is great." She said, "That's all past. It's gone." She said, "You're the problem, not me." But the outcome was that with that conversation, and obviously was her daughter, and I went to her daughter's funeral, and it just changed my friend dramatically. And she got on with life, and everything was fine. So this is the wonderful message that spirit mediums, people like that, life is just carrying on. There's a curtain in between us. I was with Susie on one occasion, and she said, told me, "John," she said, "if you don't get a new computer," she said, "this one's going to crash on you." When Mother died, no one was using computers, but there she was. She's telling me, which I had, by the way. I had to get a new computer. It was about ready to crash. And another time she said, "There's a silver hatchback, Toyota, XKS 604, 624, but it was XKS." And she said, "Don't get into that vehicle. Keep out of it." And it turned out that I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was driving that, and she had this massive accident, and nearly died. So, and I'd forgotten all about my mother's message, but when I saw this smashed vehicle, I looked at the number plate, SKS 604 or 624. So they're well aware of what's going on. Another time, she said, "Look, do something about your neck. If you don't do something about your neck, you're going to have problems with it later on." So I really did things and got it physio and all the rest of it, and it's fine now. So they're there. They're not nothing fluffy cloud land. It's just a curtain in between, but they are energy. We have we're the same, except we're carrying around this body. Some bodies are better looking than others, and some are older than others. But anyway, I can't complain about mine. It's been good to me. But in the world of spirit, obviously, people say, what about sex? No? You need a couple of bodies for that, male or female, or whatever your thing is. But what they can do there is that people who are attracted to each other, their energies can entwine, and they can have erotic and sensual experiences. I don't know about climaxes, but the thing is, well, actually, someone once said to me, I was ballroom dancing, a woman, and she said, John, you know why I like ballroom dancing? And I said, no. She said, because you've got your arms around you. She said, and you can dance for a couple of hours, and it's sensual and it's really lovely. She said, I think that's better than sex. So that reminds me a bit like in the world of spirit, that you can entwine your energies and get literally intermingle with each other, which we can't do here. But they physically can't have sex because they don't have bodies. Now that also applies to all the other things in life as well, where we need physical bodies. Spirits are here with us all the time. They come here, their presence, depending whether it's family or whatever reasons it happens to be. But they can't interfere on our physical plane. But they can influence us. If you're in the desert and you are thirsting for water, through thought, they could try and direct you towards where there was water. Or if there's someone who is travelling through the desert, they would, using thought, try to direct them and move them towards you. So there are ways, that they can influence things, but under normal circumstances, they don't, or they don't influence matter. A couple of things. It's a great place, but it's a place of learning. It's a place of fun, and the things that they do like is laughter and enjoyment. My best friend, Wally Wayne, we were in Vietnam together, and he died, possibly from effects of Vietnam. But anyway, he loved his gardens. So anyway, he used to get with my ex-wife Mel, and he would meet up with her. And she'd say, is that you, Wally? And he said, yeah. And she said to him, look, because they chatted briefly for about 3 or 4 occasions, but she said, every time I see you, she said, you're smiling. And she said, why? He said, I like gardens. He said, if you could see the flowers in the gardens over here, he said, you'd never stop smiling either. So that's so for a gardener, there are gardens. For a musician, there's music, great music. For artists, there's plenty of colour. So it's all things to all people, and because it's energy, anything can be manufactured at any time. But I just, a couple of things, from this Destiny of Souls, I just like to read, because the effort of moving towards a greater goodness and a conjunction with the source, the creator, the source that created us, is the prime motivator of souls. In other words, they wish to return and be as close as they can to the creator. Souls have feelings of humility at being given the opportunity to incarnate in physical form. I have been asked many times if my subjects see the source of creation. during their sessions. In my introduction I said I could only go so far upriver towards the source because of the limitations of working with people who are still incarnating. Advanced subjects talk about the time of conjunction when they will join the most sacred ones. In the sphere of dense purple light, there is an all-knowing presence. What this means I cannot say, but I do know a presence is felt when we go out before our council of elders. What they're saying there is that once you've gone through this hall of healing and you've got rid of a lot of this negativity, possibly not all that we've carried with us from this lifetime, or the current lifetime, the previous lifetime, and then you'll go before a council of elders. And these, usually 4 or 5 or 6, 5 seems to be a common number, and each of these people, they're there to examine and talk to you, but not judge you about your previous lifetime, what you've learnt, what you should have learnt, what you did, what you didn't do. And so they go over that lifetime to see what lessons have learnt, what lessons you could have learnt and didn't learn. So it's an examination, and they may give you advice as to what would be a good idea for your next incarnation. So that's the closest you get to any judgment. Now, what does happen, each soul, each individual soul energy knows what they did some naughty things, nasty things, terrible things. They know what they should do to make amends, and that's up to them as to how they want to do that. But if there is a karmic debt, in other words, you've done things that bring on bad karma, one way or another they have to be attended to. But not to punish you, but so you'll understand what hurt or pain you did to those other people, so you're not going to do it again. Now maybe you might say, well, I'd like to have that happen to me, or something like that. But that's up to you. You may have had a range of good lives, and you think it's time to have a difficult one, so you arrange that. There may be a situation on Earth where someone needs to die young, and from some particular form of illness, because through that people will be affected, and they'll do research which will fix that illness, and that's for the betterment of mankind. So, because we don't know all the facts when people die, and the reason why they died, and the reason why they died in that particular way, we cannot go out and judge. But I'd like to also read I can't find it, I'll remember it. What happens that one person, when they were regressing and they were talking about life in the world of spirit, they said that when they're having a break from some lessons that they were going through, so they have their lessons over there and they're taught, and so life goes on the other side. We were still learning about a whole range of different topics, and they said they're having a break, and they're actually having a picnic. And she went on to say that myself and some of the other women we told the guys that if they didn't behave because they were playing up and having too much fun and so forth, she said if they didn't behave, we'd come back as their wives in the next incarnation. So there's gaiety, there's joy, there's singing, there's dance, there's all this, but there's also learning. So, as Henri Nabour said, look, it's actually simply two states of being. Down here, you're the same person, your energy, but you're carrying a body. Up there, we don't have a body. One question that came up was, this person said, when they died, they met their mother, who had died quite some time previously. But she had also already reincarnated into a new person on Earth. How is it that I can talk to my mother when she's already reincarnated on Earth? I've actually thought about the same thing. And what actually happens is that we're energy. And when we're in the world of spirit and we incarnate, not all of our energy comes into the new body. 60%, 50%, whatever it is. But 40, 50% is still in the world of spirit. So, right at this very moment, I'm talking to you here, but 55% of my energy is here. My energy, soul energy, whatever you want to call it, but 50%, 40% is still in the world of spirit. So people are over on that side enjoy having a good time with me. And that part of my energy, well, I'm sorting things out down here. So we don't ever bring all our energy to Earth. So this is why that we can go back, and even if a friend of ours has incarnated, we can still be involved with that person in the world of spirit. But why? Why go to all this trouble? It's simply that the source, the creator, the presence, created us lovingly. But that upon that creation, he wants us to, we know nothing. We're literally babes in arms. He wants us to know as much as we can know, experience as much as we can experience, and become wise, knowing people who are good, kind and loving, who ultimately will love unconditionally and live without fear. Fear of anything. Wise and fearless and loving. So to reach that, to have all those experiences, takes lifetime after lifetime. But at some point we come to that stage where we are wise and fearless and loving, unconditional. And it's at that time that we will depart our world, our wheel of reincarnations, as they put it. And there we'll have our things to do, because what we will be doing, we have our our basic, each person is unique. There is no two souls alike. Might be similar in some ways, but each is unique. And depending on that unique soul energy, that is the direction that we will proceed when we've finished our series of lifetimes of reincarnations. So we'll move in that direction. So if you're a person who loves research and books and so forth and is a quite studious type, you'll be moving in that direction. If you're science-minded and mathematically minded and this is your love, you'll be moving in that direction. So it depends upon your own uniqueness as to what you'll be doing. But the thing is, we are immortal and eternal. So in actual fact, it's a journey that never ends. Now, you can look at it that way. We think, oh my God, 500 billion years from now, what's going on? Looking at it in that way of life. But in actual fact, in the world of spirit, there is no such thing as time. Everything is simply the present. Everything is simply now. Knowing that, we can try and be as much as we can in the present while we are here in the now. So, in the world of spirit, it's where immortality and eternity collide. And the Clishan means there tain't no such thing as time. It is timeless. But it's very hard for us to get our minds around that, but this is the way it is. But the end, there's many things that go on in the world of spirit, and if you're certainly interested, I would certainly recommend that Destiny of Souls, and it's a great starting point, and the reason is he's got 60 or 70 different people of all walks of life that go through this regression, and you can see the similarities and you can see the differences and you can get a real feeling for what goes on. There are other books, but this to me is the best that the most wide-ranging book that I know of, that I would certainly recommend, and I have read it 3 or 4 times. The nicest thing, looking at it factually and with reality, it would appear to me the nicest single thing about life is death. Because death is when you return home. Just all the things, your highs and lows and all the things are put behind you. Now, can't say I've enjoyed all my life, but I've had a very full life. And I've certainly have no regrets. And I've had some wonderful loves. And the thing is, I know that will be taken with me. Love never dies. But I'm also looking forward to when I die, seeing my friends again. I'm looking forward to the experience. I don't have any problems with it. And in fact, there's certain things that I do that I'm even preparing for my next incarnation. So I'm not just looking at things in this particular life, but things are going to move on, and things will happen in another life, and there are certain things that I'm doing personally that I hope will contribute already to my next life. I'm certainly trying to stack up as much good karma as I can, and because good karma is paid back, just as bad karma is also paid back one way or another. Overall, it's a good story. Death is something to be welcomed. Now, we have a life, and I believe if we have a life, we do what we possibly can to enjoy that life and celebrate it to the max, to the maximum that we can. But even if we're having a good time, a hard time, is looking at it, if we're looking at it from this point of view as a learning curve, our attitude towards that situation, which may not be very nice at the time, but it's part of the learning that we obviously need to do. And the other thing is that the life we have at this present time is a life that we chose, because when it is time to reincarnate, they will give you a series, provided you're coming back to planet Earth and maybe somewhere else, but they will give you a series of lives that they feel are best suited to what you want to do in your next incarnation. And it's you. You don't have to take that, but normally you'll see what of those lives is what you think would suit you the most, and you would fit in with that situation to do what you wish to do in that particular life. So when things do happen to us here, we need to be aware that we chose this particular life for whatever the reasons we had. It's all good news. Death, that is. Bye for now.